Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is so easy to understand. This is so easy to understand. And it's something that is just so absurd. Democrats work in the most absurd manner. Well, before we get to Democrats, let's just get to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders spent, the entire 3 years of President Trump's administration fomenting the belief that Trump worked with Russia. Pretty much regurgitating everything that was told to him by corrupt intelligence officials. These officials don't want Medicare for all or Green New Deal legislation. Well, neither do Democrats in the House. But all of this was a complete and utter facade, charade, scam. All the same. It's basically the Democratic primary for the past 3 years. The Mueller probe, look, they cheated Bernie Sanders. The DNC email showed Bernie Sanders was cheated. He did not have the courage to stand up to the same people who cheated him. President Trump stood up today, called out the nonsense, and said, yeah, Russia doesn't want me, whatever. You know what? It's all a bunch of nonsense anyway. Only Trump, if you look at Trump, only Trump has the guts, MSDNC, Comcast Slime, CNN, and others of the fake media have now added Bernie to the list of Russian sympathizers, along with Tulsi Gabbard and Jill Stein of the Green Party, both agents of Russia, they say. But now they report President Putin wants Bernie or me to win. Here you have, why doesn't Bernie Sanders call this out for what it is? Because he can't. Because he can't call it out. Because he can't call it out. Because he spent 3 years trying to, since he was cheated, he spent every waking moment repeating and regurgitating the nonsense. And he is on record as saying Trump wanted Russia. Trump worked with Russia, and Russia wanted Trump, and poor Clinton had to deal with Trump and Russia, and Hillary Clinton is going to be nominee. Washington Post, Bernie Sanders briefed by U.S. officials that Russia is trying to help his presidential campaign. First of all, these wonderful U.S. officials are wrong on everything. Even before many of these agencies were created, they're wrong on everything. You can go back, the Bay of Pigs, it was an intelligence failure. Gulf of Tonkin was an intelligence failure. Not knowing the Berlin Wall would fall, that was an intelligence failure. Then you look at George Bush's failed foreign policy was predicated upon intelligence failures. We're still dealing with the repercussions of these failures today. President Obama, throughout his tenure, had intelligence failures that I can't even get into because of YouTube policies. Then you had Facebook ads that apparently Russia was able to, purchase, and that was okay, apparently. I mean, the intelligence agencies didn't protect us from those, from the Facebook ads, so they failed at that also. Tell me again how these wonderful intelligence agencies protect the country from anything. There are events in U.S. history that I can't talk about on YouTube, but did the wonderful intelligence agencies protect us from these events? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But they demand reverence. They demand that you listen to them, and now they're going after Bernie Sanders. Now, this is a huge thing. When it comes to, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to Democrats, Russia doesn't want Bernie Sanders. He wants chaos. Wired. Washington Post, Bernie Sanders briefed by U.S. officials that Russia is trying to help his presidential campaign. Team Bernie fingers Richard Grenell for leaking Russia story. Really? Officials told Bernie Sanders Russia is trying to help his campaign. Business Insider. Actually, Putin would prefer a President Bernie. New York Post. And then 8 hours ago, instead of fighting back, Sanders condemns Russian interference in 2020 elections. What is this euphemism that they worship? Russian interference means knowing about the Democratic Party corruption. Reuters, U.S. officials tell Democrats Sanders Russia is trying to help his campaign. He spent 3 years fomenting this nonsense. He spent 3 years fomenting this nonsense. Now it's going back to haunt him. This does not help Bernie become the Democratic nominee because, number one, Hillary Clinton is going to be all of this. All of this is for Hillary Clinton. Everything from the Steele dossier to the Mueller probe to impeachment to now this hilarious facade of a Democratic primary. It is all to help Clinton become nominee. She is going to become nominee. Why is that difficult for people to see? Just because she's not officially campaigning doesn't mean she hasn't been campaigning through surrogates like Bloomberg, like Biden. It's not difficult. If you think that Madam Secretary doesn't have the audacity to do that type of thing, you're wrong. She definitely does. And she definitely is. This whole thing is staged and fabricated. The whole thing is fabricated. Let's read the tweets. Let's go ahead and read the tweets. Why don't we just read what Bernie has said the past 3 years? He has fomented the same nonsense that they're using against him. He has completely fomented the same nonsense they're using against him. And just today's response, who stuck up for Jill Stein and Tulsi Gabbard? It's Trump, not Bernie Sanders. Trump just went after them and said, yeah, MSDNC and CNN and others have now added Bernie to the list of Russian sympathizers along Tulsi Gabbard and Jill Stein, both agents of Russia, they say. But now they report President Putin wants Bernie or me to win. Okay. Tell me again, if you're a Bernie supporter watching this, do you not see the difference between Trump and Bernie Sanders? Trump fights. He doesn't care what Democrats think. Bernie Sanders is almost certainly in on it. He's not going to fight for Medicare for all. He can't even fight against a completely bogus narrative. I don't care if intelligence officials who are always wrong about everything, from the Bay of Pigs and the Gulf of Tonkin to the fall of the Berlin Wall to the horrific event that preceded Bush's failed foreign policy that was predicated upon intelligence failures that was pushed by Max Boot and Bill Kristol, the same people who were voting for Clinton in 2020, who voted for Clinton in 2016. You know those people who said vote for Clinton in swing states and vote for Clinton in 2016? Yeah, they voted along with Max Boot and Bill Kristol for Clinton. Hillary Clinton is going to be the nominee. This isn't rocket science. All of this helps Madam Secretary. And I'm on 31458. Mayor Boomlaski, at what age? At that age where he wants to have some fun with that money. Brian Levy, thank you. The right is more creative than the left. And I'm on 31458. Thank you, Mayor Lansky, at that age where he wants to have some fun with that money. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm on 31458. Thank you. I want to read you. And I'm on 458 And everyone, Brian, everyone here, I want to read you 3 years of Bernie taking it every single day for everyone else. Just taking it. Okay? Just take it. 1314558. Thank you very much as always. Here we have, let's see. Senate joins House in overwhelmingly passing new sanctions. Okay, so where's Bernie's here? Where's Bernie Sanders? Here you have Senator Bernie Sanders. President Trump's press conference with Putin was an embarrassment. This is, okay, Bernie Sanders. This is how he fights the establishment and 1%. There's 2 billionaires who are running for president now. Okay, so, or there's Bloomberg and Steyer here. July 16, 2018. President Trump's press conference with Putin was an embarrassing spectacle. Rather than make clear that interference in our election is unacceptable, Trump instead accepted Putin's denials and cast doubt on the conclusion of our intelligence community. This is not normal. You, Bernie Sanders, this whole thing was about you being cheated. What do you mean this is not normal? Can't you stick up for your voters? This whole thing was about you being cheated. This guy literally tweets the most absurd defense of him being cheated. He is the one who's being cheated. And then, instead of simply saying, it's really unbelievable, we find out that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Then he goes, President Trump's press conference with Putin was an embarrassing spectacle. Rather than make clear the interference in our election is unacceptable, Trump instead accepted Putin's denials. This is not normal. What is not normal is that you were cheated and you didn't even have the courage to call out the fact you were cheated by Democrats, not Putin. Only Trump fights corrupt intelligence officials. Bernie Sanders gets in bed with them. Oh, Brennan. Can I make some hot cocoa for you, Brennan? Are you okay? Let's move over, Comey. I'm trying to watch television. Oh, Clapper. Let's all just jump in the same waterbed and have an enjoyable evening together. I mean, my God. You foment the same, and now they're saying that Russia wants Bernie Sanders. There goes 4 years of a political revolution, a movement that has turned into the biggest bowel movement in political history, cut in two by Elizabeth Warren, who failed her DNA test. President Trump's press conference with Putin was an embarrassing spectacle. Rather than make clear interference in our elections is unacceptable, why is it unacceptable to realize that you were cheated by Deborah Wasserman Schultz, Bernard? My God. And look at Trump today. He goes and says, hey, you know what? This is nonsense. Then Bernie Sanders, March 31st, 2017. What hold does Russia have over President Trump? Good, Bernie. Continue the fake, phony, absurd myth that Trump worked with Russia as if it won't be turned against you. You think this is the way to Medicare for all? No, it's not. What hold does Russia have over President Trump? Trump or his associates had colluded. Hold on. The issue of whether or not. Hold on 1 second here. Trump or his associates or his campaign had colluded with Russia in the election is an issue of incredible consequences. My God. It's unbelievable. I mean, you look at, and there are so many more examples. There are so many more examples here. It's so annoying, too, because it's like, you weren't cheated by Russia, Bernie. You were cheated by Democrats. Why don't you call them out? Why don't you say that, hey, you cheated me? And I'm on 31458. HA question. for you and others too. What would Bernie be doing if he was never in politics? It's a frightening thought. I don't know. That's a great Adam on 31458. That's a great question. I don't know. Maybe a college professor? I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. And that's an important thing too. Well, it's the same thing. What would Biden be doing? What would Clinton be doing? What would Hillary Clinton be doing? My God, that's a great question. Ralph Nieves, thank you. Thanks, Anabomb 3458. Thank you. Parabiology 101. America wants John Wayne Trump as president, not busted Bernie the betrayer. Yes, Parabiology 101. Thank you as always for watching. Hope all is well. Anabomb 3458. Thank you as always. Parabiology, yeah, they want somebody who goes up against the most nonsensical, irrational, absurd myths. Valerie Rogers, the American people are tired of them. Yes, but you look at what's. Just look at. Now you have Bernie Sanders briefed by U.S. officials that Russia is trying to help his presidential campaign, but he has been warning America. Eric H526, thank you. Thank you, Eric H526. But why would Russia want Bernie Sanders if he's been worried about, if he's been proclaiming from the rooftops that Russia is helping Trump or that Trump is helping Russia? Here you have Face the Nation, Bernie Sanders. Perhaps also you have a president who really does have strong authoritarian tendencies. Maybe he admires the kind of government that Putin is running in Russia. The Orwellian type of authoritarian government, Bernie, relies on people like you being quiet, fomenting myths. I don't think Democrats understand what the word authoritarian means. It does not mean somebody who signs prison reform legislation. It does not mean somebody who questions Big Brother or intelligence agencies that have always been wrong. Trump is anti-authoritarian. He is not a fan of intelligence agencies fomenting the belief that a political party lost because of another country. Okay, that's Bernie Sanders. That's the Democratic Party. They're blaming another country in the most xenophobic manner. They're the ones who Trump really sold the American people out in Helsinki summit. I mean, it's just unbelievable. There's like no shame here. Like, it really, and then it just every step of the way. Interfering with Mueller probe is an impeachable offense, Sanders warns. President Trump must allow the special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation to continue unimpeded. Really, Bernie? You don't think they'd turn on you? You don't think they would investigate you in a second and frame and set you up? My God. I mean, you read these tweets from Bernie Sanders. Any attempt by President or the Justice Department to interfere with Mueller's probe would be an obstruction of justice and an impeachable offense. Well, it couldn't have been obstruction of justice, number one, because there was no crime committed. So he never worked with Russia. Number two, he had every right to fire Mueller, and I would have loved had he done that, but it actually worked out for Trump. It actually worked out for Trump. Or he could have fired Mueller and then declassified everything and not waited so long. It's like, this is not intelligence that's protecting American lives. This is intelligence fantasies that are protecting. This is Sanders rips Trump for saying Mueller should not testify. You are not an authoritarian. I mean, it's like, every step of the way, he sold his soul to the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders. Every step of the way. And now they're turning on him. Every step of the way. Every step of the way. And now he's a pawn of Russia. We can go on forever. Russia's effort to convince Bernie Sanders voters to support Trump was central. What Russia's effort? There's a direct link between Bernie Sanders and Trump on trade, on immigration, on foreign policy, especially on the economy. There's a direct link. Both didn't want the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Both don't want interventions. Both are okay to an extent with tariffs. I changed the profile of this, the picture of this channel to one of my Federalist articles. It's like unbelievable. And this is April 2019. A new study claims that anything Democrats don't like is a Russian plot. Who believes this nonsense? Like, you have to be. And then when Clinton goes after Bernie Sanders's, when Clinton goes after Tulsi Gabbard, it's like, okay, nobody likes him. It's like unbelievable. Nobody wants to work with him. Hillary Clinton. I mean, they're getting him. They're never going to let Bernie Sanders become nominee. They're never going to let him become nominee. It's unbelievable. It is really unbelievable. It's unbelievable that they would utilize him. They would utilize him and just toss him aside after his utility expired. And it's unbelievable that he doesn't care. It's clear that Donald Trump wants nothing more than to shut down the Mueller investigation. While we have more details from today's report. Here we go. It's the same thing. It's the same thing over and over again. All he did was regurgitate the same myth. There's one tweet I'm trying to find where he actually talks about, well, poor Clinton had to work against both Trump and Russia. The DNC emails were about you being cheated, Bernie. Do you not realize this? Do you not realize that the wonderful intelligence agencies that you've so closely held to your... Don't you realize that they're going after you? Don't you realize they're utilizing you? They have no evidence. They just claim. It's like anything that harms their electoral chances is a Russian plot. That's it. That's it. Anything that harms them is a Russian plot. That's it. Here we go. Sanders, investigate Trump ties to Russia. February 15, 2017. Within months of being cheated by Democrats, and within months of the DNC emails showing that he was cheated, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz being forced to resign, and other Democrats being forced to resign for cheating him, within months, he sets this out. Sanders, investigate Trump ties to Russia. Senator Bernie Sanders on Wednesday asked leaders of the Senate Intelligence Committee to investigate the relationship between Donald Trump and the Russian government. Now, Bernie, they can do the same thing with you. Do you know how easy it is to say Russia wants Bernie Sanders, and then a story in the Washington Post tomorrow, Bernie Sanders has ties to Russia? I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt, not of course he doesn't, but I wouldn't doubt that the Washington Post now, in the next couple of weeks, if they get desperate, an intelligence official comes out and says, you know what, Bernie Sanders, there are ties to Russia. There are things that don't make sense. And you better believe they would wholeheartedly, Democrats would wholeheartedly believe it, because they don't care about fact. They care about whatever it is that bolsters their belief system, or whatever helps them politically. It's really unbelievable the extent to which Bernie Sanders went to foment the same nonsense. Theresa King! Remember, HA, this is all just a present. The Hillary is to save the party and jump back in. Yes, exactly, Theresa King. Hillary Clinton, Theresa King, and everyone here is going to be the Democratic nominee. She is going to be the Democratic nominee. And it's just unbelievable. Theresa King, thank you. It's unbelievable the extent to which Democrats have sold their souls. It is unbelievable. What hold does Russia have over President Trump? It's like, my God. Now they're going after Bernie Sanders. Now they're going after Bernie Sanders. And it takes 2 seconds. It takes 2 seconds to go from hey, this is fact, PolitiFact. I don't even want to get into it. This is so hilarious. Russia never meddled in the election, number one. Clinton won the popular vote, and not one person looked at Facebook ads or the DNC emails and said, I'm not voting for Clinton. Anyone who looked at the DNC emails and said, okay, you cheated Bernie Sanders, so therefore I'm not going to vote, would never have voted Democrat anyway, because they already knew that Bernie was being cheated. Not one person. And I want, if the rebuttal is, of course, at least one person, well, where's the evidence? I want to know who these people are. You can assume a lot of things. If you can assume that Russia interfered, you can also assume that it had that Comey's letter was infinitely worse, had a much greater impact. You can assume that when I was saying that Clinton would lose in 2015 and 2016. Long before any emails, long before Russia, long before anything. Clemson's tweet database tracks Russian Twitter trolls. They're so... In 2015, I said Clinton would lose swing states on this channel and in my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, and Salon. It didn't take a rocket scientist to know this. Clinton will still lose, but that doesn't mean she's not running again. Haha, Valerie Rogers, thank you. It's like unbelievable how Bernie Sanders doesn't fight. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. He just regurgitates the same thing and then wonders why they turn on him. At the end of the day, you have to come to the conclusion that he's in on it. There are these. Let's look at. If you look at his tweets, they're really interesting. Here we go. Here's a good one. Russia's attack on our democracy is of enormous consequence. Trump must not in any way try to derail or obstruct the Mueller investigation. And what happens when they go after you, Bernie? October 30th, 2017. What happens when they go after you? Oh, that's right, they are going after you. Oh, that's right. That's right, they are going after you. Who's going to help you, Bernie? Who's going to help you when they go after you? The wonderful pundits that you couldn't endorse? Who's going to help you if the intelligence agencies want to investigate you? You better believe they're about to investigate you, Bernie Sanders, because you fomented the same nonsense for 3 years. You never pushed back. And now if you get too close, it takes 2 seconds. You have another person blowing the whistle, and, another lieutenant colonel who comes out and says Bernie Sanders might have worked with Russia. You think that's absurd? Why? They did it to Trump. And he had 0 ties. Bernie apparently honeymooned in Russia, didn't he? Oh, okay. Then you said Bernie Sanders says his 2016 team saw effects of Russian anti-Clinton campaign. He never stops. He never stops. He doesn't stick up for himself. My God, he doesn't stick up for himself. And then you have millions of people saying, oh yeah, Bernie Sanders, oh yeah, Bernie Sanders. How can you fight the 1% when you regurgitate the same myths? You regurgitate the same myth. It is unbelievable. In a second, they could turn from Russia wants Bernie to Bernie had ties. We need to investigate Bernie, and they would salivate. Democrats, and I don't want it to happen because I think that's horrendous. But notice how Bernie Sanders never spoke out and said, you don't need to do all of this with a dossier Clinton purchased. It makes no sense. He could have helped protect this country from a new McCarthy era madness. The intelligence agencies are confident, they're not certain. She won the popular vote. So you have to explain then, how did Facebook ads in swing states swing the election? Here we go. How does it happen that we have a president who has nothing but nice things to say about Mr. Putin? What do the Russians have on Trump? Ah, okay, Bernie. Oh my God. And then people say, well, it's just politics, It's just politics, It's like, no. When you go back in time and you look at Bernie Sanders' tweets, you lose respect for the guy. There's no way not to lose respect for Bernie Sanders. When you look at when you look at what he said about Russian interference and Trump, it's like you just can't help but lose respect. It's really unbelievable the extent to which this man just regurgitated such nonsense. You think that Bernie Sanders believes that Russia interfered in the election? Of course he doesn't. Of course he doesn't believe that. Of course he doesn't believe that. He knows that's nonsense. He knows it's absolute nonsense. He knows that it's complete and utter nonsense. He knows that. Complete and utter nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. You know what? I'm running out of steam right now. Reading Bernie's tweets on Trump and Russia is just so demoralizing. Trump fights. Bernie Sanders regurgitates myths. And now those same myths are going to be his undoing. And he could have simply stood up when it was unpopular, but he didn't do so. So now he's feeling the consequences, unfortunately. Give me your thoughts below. Have a great, great evening. God bless. Thank you so very much to my super chat. Thank you. I will see you tomorrow. The next year, every day from here on out until the election is going to be So important. This is going to be one of the most interesting, most important times in U.S. history. Thank you so very much, everyone. Have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank